It is absolutely a buyer's market. It is a buyer's market by all contexts of the phrase, guys. From $6,600 to about $7,000 is the national average of negative equity that American holds on their current vehicle. Insurance premiums have gotten out of hand, and that is perhaps the largest piece of the puzzle that not many people really talk about. Insurance has over doubled. And then you have this. WTF is this? Oh my gosh, 100,000 2024 Sierra EV Denali Edition 1. 10 to 12% drop across the board for wholesale pricing. The problem is we as consumer, the retail market, we generally don't see it for another 3 to 4 months beyond the wholesale market making a shift. GM, Nissan, Stellantis, a number of vehicle manufacturers are laying off production line workers because we no longer need that production. Now, they even had to go above that. $15,000 to $20,000 is becoming a pretty common sight. Nearly half of Nissan dealerships within the US are currently losing money month to month right now. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So it is no surprise or shock to anyone that the car industry right now is in shambles. If you go to any dealership lot, you will see a whole slew of vehicles just lining the dealership lot. There are huge discounts being offered left and right, $10,000 off many manufacturers right now, incentivized interest rates of 0% oftentimes in order to move that inventory that has been stacking up. In today's video, I'm going to highlight a number of details, new stats, facts, and figures, and we'll wrap up this video with what does the next 3 to 4 months look like for Americans. So you can't talk about the car market at large without talking about repossession rates. Currently, we are seeing a 23% increase in repossessions over the last few months. That's across the nation. That is a staggering statistic, especially when you are considering a used vehicle. What does that mean? There's a good chance that that lightly used vehicle you're checking out is a repossession, and that generally means it wasn't very well taken care of in the first place. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at a lightly used vehicle right now. And in the not so distant past, you used to be able to go to a Toyota dealership and buy a mid-size pickup like this Toyota Tacoma for $30,000 to $40,000 confidently, depending on the trim. Many of these here that I'm looking at are over $50,000. This one right here, $55,000 for that limited. But that is, quote unquote, our new reality. But because of that new reality, you see what you see before me now. A whole lineup of these unsold Toyota Tacomas because people cannot afford it. Not to mention they don't want a 4-cylinder Toyota Tacoma that costs over 50 grand. Across all vehicle manufacturers, we have seen a nearly 40% MSRP price increase since 2019. It's almost as if all vehicle manufacturers think that we as consumers have seen a 40% pay increase since 2019. I don't know about you guys, but I sure haven't. And do you remember when an SR5 used to cost you like $26,000 not so long ago? Well, here we have one, $43,000, just under $43,000. Here's a TRD off-road. Let me show you this for fun. Get a load of that price tag. Over $55,000 for a Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road. That's our new reality. And I always like to add this for context, but this here is a 2021 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, top-of-the-line TRD Pro. Back in 2021, this cost less than that Tacoma over there at $54,000 being the MSRP. Pretty crazy, huh? And we can't talk about inflated prices of vehicles without bringing up the Toyota Tundra here. Many of these are $15,000 to $20,000 more than the previous generation, and you get less of a truck, right? All these come with a V6 now, turbocharged V6. There's a hybrid option or a non-hybrid option, but some of them even come with a nice recall with a main crankshaft bearing issue plaguing this platform. But hey, they still want $15,000 to $20,000 more. And I find it quite staggering that even the cheapest Toyota Tundra on this lot right here, this SR5 Toyota Tundra, non-hybrid version of it, is $52,579. That is crazy to me. So the two models behind me, we have a Toyota RAV4 LE and a GR86 over here, a base model GR86. These are the examples that are actually selling. Not because they're wildly popular, but because of their price points. For the RAV4, it being a more base model LE example and getting phenomenal fuel economy, that's why they're actually selling. People cannot afford the vehicles that are $60,000, $70,000, and $80,000. These, right in that $30,000 range. Mark my words, this right here will be a legacy lineup this time next year. These 3rd generation Toyota Tacomas and that 5th generation Toyota 4Runner, these are going to be very much sought after. People will desire these naturally aspirated platforms. We have a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 over here in the Tacoma, and then a 4-liter naturally aspirated V6 right here. These are iconic Toyotas that last a very long time and offer unmatched peace of mind. Not the new, smaller displacement turbocharged platforms and the hybrid platforms. They do not offer that same peace of mind. Mazda, Nissan, and GM are leading the pack with offering incentivized interest rates right now. They're getting pretty desperate, many times offering 0% over to 72-month interest rates on their loans. You can expect them to combine that with a great discount. Before now, I would say that you're going to get one or the other. You're going to get a great interest rate or you're going to get a great discount. Now, you are in a driver's seat as a buyer. Expect both. Expect a great interest rate and a huge discount. So it should come as no surprise that banks are tightening up right now. In fact, over the last 2 months now, nearly 1 out of every 5 auto loans that were applied for within the US were denied. Let me say that again, 1 out of 5. That is crazy, and certainly not the case during the pandemic when money was cheap, but that is definitely not the case right now. There is a glimmer of hope behind that because what does that do? It forces dealerships to cut their nonsense markups, right? Some dealerships are still trying to deploy greedy ADMs, right? Additional dealer markups or addendums. That stuff has gone by the wayside because banks will not fund it. Every time I look at the prices of new trucks now, I'm always just completely baffled, right? So many new trucks are just teetering toward that $100,000 mark, right? So we got a few Super Duties here. This one here is a Lariat, $82,500. So this is more of a base model trim, but still, with that kind of price tag and paying modern interest rates, you're easily going to be paying over $100,000 if you pay this through the term. And well, somebody got a load of that price tag, and well, you see what they did with it. I wish I had a Ford Bronco Raptor to show you guys. That is a glimmer of hope as well, because we are seeing Ford drop and slash the MSRPs on those drastically. I'm talking $10,000 to $20,000 off of the Ford Bronco Raptor right now. So that is reassuring, but also concerning too at the same time, because what does that say? It says they overpriced the crud out of it right out of the gate. And even the sight behind me with the various trims of the Ford Bronco used to be a pretty rare sight, right? Being able to walk onto a dealership and see all these different Ford Broncos that are available just sitting on the lot, you weren't able to do that just a couple of years ago. But now go to any Ford dealership and you're gonna see dozens upon dozens of available Ford Broncos. So we gotta be careful what we wish for, right? Obviously, we like seeing the cost of new vehicles come down drastically and with great incentivized interest rates. However, what does that mean for the used market? What does that mean for your trade-in value? That means your trade-in value is gonna plummet just as much or even more. And we are seeing that across the board right now, unfortunately. So although you can get a much better deal on a used vehicle right now, you just need to be cautious. Make sure you are looking that thing up and down all over underneath it just to make sure that it was taken care of, right? So many of these lightly used options are repossessions. So they went to people who just couldn't make the payments, and well, if they couldn't make the payments for the actual vehicle and they got to the point where it was repossessed, what does that likely mean for the maintenance of the vehicle? They probably didn't take the best care of it. So keep that in mind as you're buying a used one. So we have so many of these smaller SUVs, these compact SUVs here that have 0% interest rates on them and discounts applied already. So these are right around that $30,000 mark, brand new, and a 0% interest rate. So this is becoming much more prevalent right now. And there was a time during the pandemic that you would never ever see a used available 2021 Toyota Land Cruiser Heritage Edition for sale and sit on a dealership lot. This one here is priced semi-fairly, about $83,000 and some change, with 44,000 miles on it. And yet it's been sitting here for a while, but that would have never happened just a couple years ago. Insurance premiums have gotten out of hand, and that is perhaps the largest piece of the puzzle that not many people really talk about. Insurance has over doubled over the last 4 years within the US across the entire United States. It is state by state dependent though. Some states saw an over 50% increase from last year. You heard that right. Just over 1 year, we saw a 50% increase across the board. Everybody is affected by that. And I hate to say it like this, but there even catastrophes like the hurricane that's taking place right now. A lot of people take advantage of that. They commit insurance fraud. They leave their vehicles out knowing a hurricane is coming, and they really take advantage of insurance offerings, right? And because of that, well, we all suffer the penalty, and it causes all of our rates to go up, which is a pretty unfortunate truth. And if you're like me and you have 4 kiddos at home or multiple children, you're likely going to need a vehicle like this, a full-size SUV like the Ford Expedition here. And well, good luck paying that kind of premium, because many of these are over $80,000 and some of these trims are teetering toward $100,000, which is insane. Have 4 kids, they said. It'll be fun, they said. With the cost of living going up so much, the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, mortgage, insurance premiums, the cost of fuel does not need to be a factor for a lot of people, and that is a driving reason why we are still teetering toward these semi-affordable options, but mainly because they do offer a tremendous fuel economy rating, right? So that 54 miles to the gallon with this Toyota Prius makes that price tag feel pretty appropriate for most people. Have you ever wondered what a neutered version of a 2021 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro in Lunar Rock would look like? It'd look like that. I mean, there is a reason why we are seeing vehicles like the Ford Maverick here increase in popularity. Ford is moving production to these vehicles that are more simplistic and more affordable and get decent fuel economy for folks because they are actually selling. People can actually afford them at the end of the day. And then we have vehicle manufacturers like Toyota who saw a huge slump in sales over the last month. September, 21% slump in sales. Pretty staggering, but when you consider the fact that they're outsourcing a lot of their production and hiking up MSRPs drastically, it's not much of a surprise. They've overcomplicated so many of their platforms, smaller displacement motors with turbo strapped to them and hybridized battery pack strapped to them. Of course, they're going to lose popularity, and they're seeing it right now. So to be honest with you, the site you see behind me is a pretty typical site for GMC, Ford, Chevy. They're used to having a lineup of their new trucks just sitting available. But historically speaking, they've always been able to discount them $5,000 to $10,000. That's like a standard discount for a GM product anyway. But now they even have to go above that. $15,000 to $20,000 is becoming a pretty common sight in order to move this inventory. Because if they don't move this inventory, they have something called a floor plan cost. Every time, every month, carries over a credit line fee for each of the vehicles collecting dust on their lot. For every vehicle here, they pay a small credit amount, just like a credit card, in interest every month for their floor plan. They gotta move the inventory. When you look at any one of their MSRPs across the board here, many of them are in the $80,000 range. And that's insane. That has become the standard for a full-size pickup truck. And then you have this. WTF is this? Let's look and see if there's a window sticker on it. We are looking at a $100,000, oh my gosh, 100,000 2024 Sierra EV Denali Edition 1. What the heck? Who is paying that kind of money for this? I mean, there's a few Hummer EVs just sitting over there collecting dust. I remember when they were first coming out, there was a lot of rage and excitement about it, but not anymore. They're just collecting dust because they're wildly overpriced. And oftentimes, EVs are a secondary or even a third vehicle within the household, never really a primary. Especially out here in Wyoming, this is certainly not a primary vehicle, and well, you see it by them sitting on the lots collecting dust. And I never like to see it, but we are seeing a number of layoffs take place between Ford, GM, Nissan, Stellantis. A number of vehicle manufacturers are laying off production line workers because we no longer need that production. On average, across the US, a vehicle has an average days on lot time of right around 75 to 76 days. Nearly 2.5 months. When a vehicle arrives, it just sits and collects dust on the lot. And every month that goes by, well, that just compounds the issue, and that makes it so we no longer need as many production line workers. And what does that generally mean? That means it has a ripple effect to the dealerships. We no longer need as many salesmen, so more layoffs take place. It's a compounding issue, and I never like to see it, but that's the truth of the matter. Then we have issues with the UAW, the United Auto Workers Group here within the US, when they conduct strikes and when they want to be paid more, while we're also cutting production line workers, we're cutting employees throughout these various vehicle manufacturers. That compounds the issue too. There's a second and third order effect of that, which again makes it even more painful for us, the consumer, at the end of the day. But it's also important to note that you cannot have your cake and eat it too. And what I mean by that is, are we going to pay American workers, employees, more here within the US, or are we going to encourage vehicle manufacturers to outsource to cheaper labor countries like India, like Mexico? We see that from Toyota in particular. Are we going to encourage that? Right? It lessens, quote unquote, lessens the price of the vehicle, technically speaking, but we're also not paying American workers. So pick your poison between the two. I, for one, would prefer paying Americans. And to put it into context for you guys, a number of these full-size heavy-duty pickup trucks, handful of them being diesel options, if you were to finance the full amount on any one of these vehicles in front of me here, guys, if you were to finance the full amount over 72 months on about $80,000 to $85,000, some of them teetering toward $100,000 here, but we'll say $80,000 to $85,000 on a 72-month loan, you are still easily paying $1,800 a month. roughly, right? Depending on your interest rate, there's a lot of factors involved, but $18,000 to $2,000, I'll say, comfortably is what you're paying with current interest rates. Can you imagine having another mortgage-sized payment every single month on a truck? So a small shred of good news would be the wholesale market right now. Wholesale pricing has come down, I would say, quite drastically within the last couple of months here. 10 to 12% drop across the board for wholesale pricing. The problem is we as consumer, the retail market, we generally don't see it for another 3 to 4 months beyond the wholesale market making a shift, right? So I would argue, I would wager maybe come February timeframe, we will begin to see those 10 to 12% drops across the board when it comes to used vehicle inventory. In fact, I follow a lot of maybe hard to find, more desirable vehicles like the Raptor R. I follow those pretty closely, and even those, when you look at the wholesale pricing, they've come down drastically within the last 2 months. And if you follow the Raptor R, you know what I'm talking about. And just for context, a 2024 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro or a Tacoma Trailhunter will cost you over $67,000 right now. This is a GMC equivalent to that, right? More of a top-of-the-line trim GMC Canyon AT4X. Let me show you how much they want for it from GM here. So this is the equivalent, right? So 58 grand, still $9,000 less than that Tacoma counterpart. Which one are you choosing? Heck, do you remember not that long ago, these brand new Hummer EVs were coming with a $30,000 to $40,000, sometimes even $50,000 price hike over MSRP, a $50,000 markup. But now, just a mere few months later, we're saving over $13,000. That's crazy, off of MSRP. I bet the people who paid 50 grand over a sticker are kicking themselves. And one thing that I am sad to report on is nearly half of Nissan dealerships within the US are currently losing money month to month right now. You know, historically speaking, Nissans have always struggled a little bit more than other vehicle manufacturers with actually moving their inventory. And because of that, they've always offered pretty good discounts and pretty good incentivized interest rates. Right now, they have to do both. They have to do both. Great incentivized interest rates. We're talking 1.9% interest rate over 72 months or even a 0% with several $1,000s off of MSRP in order to move their inventory. Now, I, for one, do believe that the Nissan Frontier is a good bang for your buck. And maybe that is in popular opinion, but you can get a top-of-the-line Pro 4X for several $1,000s off of MSRP with a great interest rate, and, well, at the end of the day, it still offers a naturally aspirated V6 platform, you know, right around that $42,000 mark. You can easily get $5,000 to $6,000 off of sticker of these things. In my opinion, the Nissan Frontier here offers simplicity and unmatched peace of mind with reliability with that naturally aspirated V6 underneath the hood. And we combine that with a affordable and reasonable price tag, especially after discounts. Why not? I, for one, think that this Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek edition actually looks pretty good. Four-wheel drive, kind of that dark mud bath looking color from Toyota, it appears. But is it worth nearly $47,000? Remember, it wasn't all that long ago where you used to be able to buy a lightly used vehicle, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 miles on it, less than a year old, and save tremendously on that price tag. The pandemic kind of spoiled that, didn't it? You know, during the pandemic, we saw lightly used vehicles going for the same cost as a brand new MSRP of a vehicle, right? Or sometimes even more if it was a desirable trim. So one positive thing of all this is I believe we're truly getting closer to that reality again, right? So the lightly used vehicles are actually going to come with a huge discount now. And that is refreshing for a lot of people. Obviously, we talked through a whole lot of points in this video, but the major takeaways I would argue is it is absolutely a buyer's market. It is a buyer's market by all contexts of the phrase, guys. So if you are interested in buying a vehicle and you go to a dealership of your choosing and you're not able to come up with the figure or the sale price that you're interested in, walk away. Please walk away. Don't succumb to it. Just walk away. I guarantee you, either that dealership will call you within 40 minutes of you leaving that dealership or the next day, but I just encourage you to go up the road a little bit. Go to the next dealership down the road and then try to work a deal with them. I guarantee you're going to be able to find the same vehicle you're looking for, the same trim you're looking for, because inventory levels are through the roof right now. I mean, get loaded behind me. You got countless trucks here at my local dealership in little old Cheyenne, Wyoming, right? I guarantee you're going to see the same at your dealership. Inventory levels are through the roof. And dealers are beginning to get desperate. They need to slash prices across the board. They need to give you huge discounts. That brings me to my next point. We talked about it briefly, but expect a great interest rate and a huge discount, not either or. Generally speaking, a dealer will try to pin you to either or. Hey, I'll give you a 1.9% interest rate over 72 months, but you're still paying MSRP. No, expect both, a discount and the interest rate. Expect $5,000 to $10,000 off of your vehicle, or even more depending on what it is, or just walk away. In fact, I encourage you to just walk away in general, because you will get a phone call the next day and they will come down more in price, because they are getting desperate and they need to move this inventory, because every month that ticks by, this floor plan costs them a lot of money. So be patient if you can. Waiting till February, January timeframe, you will see an even larger downward tick of the pricing of vehicles. So hopefully some of you find value in this type of content. I thoroughly enjoy talking about it with you guys. I thoroughly enjoy doing the research and just digging into it, because it's fun for me. So hopefully you enjoy this too. If you find any kind of value in it, I do sincerely, respectfully request that you consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Until next time.